Very good afternoon. Myself, Dr. Ravi Kumar Poluru. Today's topic is project organization. So today's content we are going to explain about what is meant by a project organization, what is the role of project organization, and software management team, software architecture team, software development team, and software assessment team. So these are the contents today we are going to explain. First one, the project organization. So what is meant by project organization? So project organization is nothing but they need to organize the project to a team members. So before allocating this project to the team members, they need to scrutinize that what is the main criteria, how to allocate this project to the team members. So they will be implementing the technique called WBS. So WBS is nothing but when the project is consisting of lots, okay, so it will be divided into a smaller modules. These modules will be allocating to the project member 1, project member 2, project member 3 till project manager or member N. So till N member, this project will be allocated. Okay, so based upon the number of modules or the number of teams for that particular project. Okay, so here this project has to be organized and should be mapped. So based upon the how they're going to define the roles and responsibility. So this can be how the main impact the size of the project. So they need to check that what is the size and circumstances of the specific project as well as project organization. Okay, so in this diagram we have the software management. So this software management, the main activities or artifacts is the first one is business case. When the stakeholder will give the problem statement to the management or the project manager, so they will do the business use case. So they are going to check that what is the criticality of this project, okay, and they will do the different types of the scenarios, or the different types of the use cases for that particular project. So then they will have a software development plan. Okay, after completion of critical use case, they will check the what is the plan of the particular software of the particular project. And next one is status. They will check the what is the status assessment of the project. Okay, these are the actigraphs. So what are the activities will done by the software project management? Okay, so here the activities is they need to interact with the customer interface, and they need to check the PRA, project review authority interface. So when they're going to assign, the project review committee has to be checked that what is the completion rate of the project, and planning, progress monitor, and they need to verify the risk management and software process definition. So they need to define the process and how this process will be communicated from one team to the another team members, and they need to check that what is the improvement of the process. So these are the activities done in the software management. And here the next one is software engineering. In the engineering, so they need to the artigraphs is vision statement. They need to satisfy the vision statement. So they need to achieve the vision, then only they can gain for the software project. And they need to check that what are the requirements and planning in the requirement sets. And activities. So what are the different types of activities will be done in the software system engineering is, one is requirements illustrations. So they will be checking that what are the different types of the requirements for that particular project, and and specifications will be there, and use case modeling will be there. So they need to use the UML diagrams to check that use case modeling. So in the use case modeling, so they will be have the actor and the system. So they will be the relation from the actor and the system. So here, and next one is the administration. So administration will be checking that how the work will be divided with the help of the breakdown structure. So we have seen that the project can be divided into different types of the models. So these different types of the models will be allocating to the team members based upon the size. Okay, so here this administration will be done the different types of the divide and conquer technique, which will be dividing the project into models, small models, and activities. So the administration main role is they are going to check that what is the financial forecasting, means they're checking the what is the budget, and they should be have the report. So how much budget they have completed and what the remaining budget will be there, and WBS definition and the administration. So each and every model will be going to assign to the project team members, will be done by the administrations. Okay, so the next one is here, this software management will be having the different types. The first one is software architecture. This software architecture means mainly they're going to deal with the design part. So in the design, the articraft is architecture description. So first initially they need to check that the architecture, what is the design or architecture they're going to use, or the components they need to implement in that particular product. And the next one is, so after designing this one, they need to check that what is the release specification. So like version 1, version 2, version 3 till version N. So which are the whether the components has to be add or remove. The next one is the design set. So after completion of that, they can go for the another release for the architecture design. So the implement of the architecture will be done in the articrafts. So whereas the activities, okay, so the activities they need to do is, the first one is, after designing the architecture, they need to give the demonstration. So why they need to give the demonstration? So demonstration is very important when they are designing the architecture, because the architecture will be the playing very vital role in the project. If any mistakes will be done in the design part, then whole project will goes failure. So that's why the demonstration is very important criteria in the project. Okay, and according to me, they are going to plan, analysis, and design the architecture, and they need to explain that what are the different types of the design or architecture prototypes they are going to use here, and architecture documentation. So when they are going to design the architecture, so documentation is very important here. Okay, and after that, so again they need to give the demonstration. Means this is the final demonstration for that designing of the architecture. Is there any specific, so commercial component design? The component can be divided into common and commercial. So mainly they need to check that. So what are the different types of the components they are going to build in the product? In the design part or the architecture part. So they need to check that equal amount, or so they need to use the commercial as well as the common components in the architecture. And the last one is they need to make the design, or they need to buy, or they need to reuse the analysis of the architecture. So these are the different types of the activities they need to perform in the software architecture. Okay, so these are the main activities which will be very important step by step to give the demonstrations to the senior or the experts people. Okay, and next one is software development. So we know that software development is mainly used to implement the coding part here. Okay, so this software development, they need to verify about the different types of the artifacts such as the design part, plus implementation, and different types of the requirements and deployment. So in these artifacts, they need to check that design, implementation, requirement, and maintenance. Deployment or can call as the maintenance sets. So what are the main activities? So during this development, they need to check that the component design, okay, and component implementation, component testing, and component maintenance has to be implemented in the software development. And the last one is software assessment. Software assessment is nothing but it will give the status of the what is the work completed in the software, or we can call it as a deployment or the maintenance. Okay, so in the software assessment, the artifacts such as the deployment sets, they need to check that what is the completion. So here the deployment set is nothing but the final stage to release the product to the end users, and they need to verify about the database and how the user manual, release descriptions, and what are the different types of the tools and techniques they have implemented, and how many staff members they are included. And the last one is deployment documentations. So they need to check the what is the testing and the maintenance of the documents they have performed during the software assessment. And what are the activities? So they need to ensure that what is the release assessment. So whether it can be a release 1, release 2 till release n. And they need to check that use case scenario testing. So when they're going to test the final product, you need to check the different types of the scenario or the use cases testing here, and test scenario development. This is the final product, so they are going to eliminate all the bugs here. And change management. It means if any risk or the issues or bugs is identified, so based upon given the suggestions by the senior management, so they are going to change the development or architecture. Okay, and transition to users means there is no errors, and if it is a final product, then this product has to be released to the end user. And system administrations and environment configurations, environment maintenance, and tools selecting. So these are the main activities will be performed in the software assessment here. Okay, so these are the main roles and responsibility. So what is the main use of the architecture team? So architecture team is the main responsibility to verify about the real artifacts, and they need to check the different types of the components. Okay, and the development team. So the development team will be going to check that what is which language they need to implement, and what are the different types of the component constructions will be there, and the maintenance activities will be there. So they need to forecast what are the different types of the components they need to implement, and they need to achieve the quality perspective. Okay, so they need to focus on testing as well as the product evaluation. And so quality is the very important criteria for any project. So that's why so quality is everyone's job here. And also they need to check, each team has to take the responsibility to gain more quality. So here the software management team is performing that. They need to check that the project has to be more consistent or not. So they need to verify about what is the schedule and cost, functionality, and quality expectations. These are the main important criteria for the software management team here. Okay, so this should be a continuous manner to verify and to achieve within the stipulated time, because these are the main goals to achieve, because the multiple stakeholders has to be negotiated between the different types of the schedules as the quality. And the team carries the burden of delivering the win conditions, because when the stakeholders, for example, okay, if the management has told that the project cost is 100 crores, the stakeholder cannot give the 100 crores or give the amount. So what he will do means he will do the negotiation. Okay, so instead of 100 crores, he maybe tell that 80 crores I can give for this project. So the software management team will take the more responsibility of the burdens to win these situations. Okay, because stakeholders cannot sanction whatever the amount they're going to ask here. That's why they need to check. The software management team has so much burden to check what is the schedules and the cost, and where are the things they need to minimize. Unnecessary data has to be eliminated, and they need to improve the quality also. And they need to balance this information. The software management, so we are saying that software management, the anti-crafts is, so they have to take the different types of the business use cases, and the vision has to achieve software development plan, breakdown structure, status assessment, and requirement sets. Okay, and here the software management will be having the system engineering, okay, and financial administration. So financial administration is nothing but they are going to forecast the what is the budget and what is the how much budget they have been allocated, and how much budget is remaining to complete this project, and they're going to verify that quality assurance. What is the main responsibility? Responsibility is nothing but resource commitments. So what are the resources for that particular project? They need to give full-fledged to the team members, and personal assignments. If the staff members or the employees, they need to assign the responsibility and give that to complete this project within the schedule, and the plans and priorities. So the software management has more responsibility to give the plan. According to the plan, the team members has to complete the project. And stakeholder satisfaction. So we are saying that there should be a negotiation between the management as well as the stakeholder. So they need to satisfy the stakeholder as well as the management of the organization. Scope, definition, risk management, and project control. So these are the main responsibility will be handled by the software management. So in life cycle focus, so we have the 4 phases will be there. One is inception, next one is elaboration, construction, and the transition. In the software management, the inception means the initial stage is elaboration phase, means they need to plan and what are the different types of the requirements will be there, the team formulations will be there, contract baselining and architecture cost will be done during the initial stage. So whereas in the elaborations, they need to check that construction phase planning will be there, and full staff recruitment. So after completion of the design, they need to check how many staff members they require, and risk resolutions. If there is any risk will be critical issues or the risk will be happen. So they're going to check that what is the high risk, low risk, or the medium risk will be checking. They'll give the solutions for that particular risk will be there, and product assess acceptance criteria, and construction's cost. So the next one is construction. During the construction, the implementations will be done. So the construction's plan and optimization. Here also the risk will be there. How much risk will be there? So accordingly, the management will give the suggestions to minimize the risk here. And transition means the final product. So customer satisfaction, they need to take the feedback from the customer, and contract closure. So after completion of this, the contract has to be closed. Sales supports. Okay, after delivering the product, so they need to support the customer support for the end users, and next generation planning. So after completion, they need to go for the new release of the software or the architecture. So the software project, the software management team will be taking the more responsibility for the planning and keeping the more efforts and adapting the plan to changes. So based upon the criticality, so the plan changes will be done. So they need to incorporate all this and take the responsibility here. And the team takes ownership. So mainly they need to have that. So what are the different types of the resources they need to allocate, and what is the scope, and how this will be mainly impacted through the project life cycle. And also here they need to satisfy or managing the expectations of all the stakeholders during the project life cycle. Okay. So here the software management team takes ownership of all the acceptance of the quality. So they need to check that the quality is the major criteria for improving the project or the product. And also they need to balance regarding the different types of the solutions discussed with the stakeholders as well as the clients here. And software architecture team. So the main responsibility of the software architecture is they need to design or architect the blueprint of the diagram or the design part. So they need to take the more responsibility compared to the software management. So because if any problem or any difficulty will arises, so they need to bear and they need to modify the different types of the components here. Okay. So the responsibility encompasses the engineering necessary to specify a complete bill of materials. So they need to check that what are the different types of the materials they need to incorporate in the software as well as the engineering. And they need to check that what is the custom components and the commercial components. Okay. So they need to have that what is the construction of the assembly cost and predict the cost of each and every material. Okay. So here the software architecture diagrams is so architecture description and requirement sets, design sets, and release specifications will be there. And the main responsibility of the software architecture is you need to give the demonstration. So while they're designing the software architecture, the demonstration is very important because the experts will sit, or the senior members will sit and scrutinize the what are the different types of the components that are incorporated in the software architecture. And they need to use the use case modelers and design modelers and performance analysis. So different types of the analysis will be there here, and the responsibilities and rules will be there here. Different types of the requirements trade-offs, and they need to check that design and component selections, initial integrations, and technical risk resolutions will be occurred during the development of the software architecture. So in this phases, inception will be the initial stage where they are going for the prototype for the architecture and make or buy trade-offs, and also the primary scenario definitions and architecture evaluations, and they're going to check that what is the criteria definitions will be there. And during the elaborations, they need to check that what are the primary scenario demonstration and make or buy trade-off baselining. During the constructions, the maintenance, architecture maintenance should be there, and in different types of the issues. So they need to resolve these issues. And performance tuning. So they need to improve the performance. For example, if they're achieved 85%, so the performance tuning has to be done. So they need to achieve 90 to 95%. So they need to tune this performance from 85 to 90 or 95%. And they need to improve the quality. So whenever the performance is improved, so simultaneously the quality also will be improved here. And in the transition, the architecture maintenance will be there. So, and the different types of component issues will be resolved. And finally, the quality they are going to check during the transition stage. Okay, so this framework will be how they can build means so with the team communications. Okay, so when the team is good for building the components of the design part, then they're going to achieve the more quality, and different types of the implementations will be done during these applications. So with a good architecture team and average development team can succeed it. Okay, if they're having the good architecture team, then definitely they can succeed the development of the architecture will be succeeded. If the architecture is weak, okay, when they design the design or the architecture is low, so even though if we are having the expert development team, then definitely it will not be succeeded. So that's why the architecture, there should be a good cooperation between the architecture team and they need to design the good architecture. Then the team will be succeeded. So here, the most projects, the inception and the elaborations will be dominated by two distinct teams, such as software management and the architecture team. And whereas the software development and the software assessment team will be going to check the full scale productions. Okay, so here the construction phase will be there. The construction phase is nothing but they are going to implement the different types of the prototype here. Okay, and then checking the what are the risk will be performed here. And this the architecture team must be succeeded. Okay, and there should be a good cooperation between from one team to the another team here. The domain experience to produce an acceptable design view and use case view. So to succeed this, so we require the domain experience in that particular domain. So they require the expert team will be there. Okay, they need to check the different types of the design view and different types of the use case scenarios. And software technology experience. So this has to be accepted different types of the process like concurrency. So concurrency is nothing but the ability of the operating system to manage to run in the concurrency or to run parallelly. And control thread means the threads and the process has to run in a parallel manner. So while they're designing the components or deployment models. So when they're considering the component view, so they need to go for the implementation sets. And the deployment view is nothing but they're going to check the structure of the deployment. The architecture team will be checking the different types of the quality. So based upon that reliability, performance and maintenance. If any one is low, then the quality of the system will be decreased. So that's why not only these metrics of the measurements, so we have the different types of the metrics will be there to improve the quality of the system. And we have the multiple components and represent the different types of the components to provide and good solutions here. Okay, so that's why we need to check that what are the different types or single or multiple components design issues has to be resolved before going to the development team here. So here in the software development team, the main handicraft is design set, implementation set, and deployment set. So these are the three different sets will be there in the handicrafts. The role is the component teams. So what are the different types of the components they are going to use here, and what is the main responsibility? Responsibility is nothing but they need to design the different types of the components like component design, component implementation, component standalone test, component maintenance, and component documentation. Okay, so the first one is they need to supposed to have the prototype support and make by trade-offs will be there. So whereas in the elaborations, they need to check that what is the critical risk will be there for designing the component, and the different critical components has to be there, and they need to check the different types of the constraints here. Whereas the construction, so they need to have the component design, implementation, standalone test, and maintenance. And the final is maintenance. So they need to maintain the software architecture of the different types of the components and have the good documentation for that components. The software development team is mainly used for the application specific. Okay, so they can subdivide the teams into a group of components. So they require the different types of the skill sets. So we know that the components can be a commercial and custom components. So the commercial components is nothing but specialist. So those are having the expertise in that particular knowledge for that particular system architecture. And database. So for this database also we require the specialist with the experience, because they need to organize, store and access or retrieve the data. And whereas the graphical user interface. So graphical user interface is nothing but they need to access, okay, have the specialist with experience. So they need to visualize the information in a different manner, and also they need to support the human input output as well as the control of the information. Okay, the operating system and the networking. So operating system and networking, because they require the specialist with the experience of different types of the domains for the operating system and networking. Okay, so for example, if they are going to have the good experience, so this can be implemented in the network of hardware resources, and what are the different types of the issues can be, they can easily handle. So like initialization, synchronization, resource sharing, namespace management, reconfiguration, termination, and inter-object communications. Domain applications such as specialist with experience in the algorithms. Okay, application processing or business rule specific to the system. So domain applications also, they require the some specialist with the experience. So they need to use the different types of the algorithms for that processing the application. And software development team will be taking the more responsibility to improve the quality, and they need to have the different types of the component development, testing, and maintenance. The component test should be have the self-documented, repeatable software that is treated like a operational component. So they need to have the source code. So, and this has to be maintained naturally. So when we are using this source code, so automatically the information has to be displayed. What are the critical issues will be done with the help of the automated testing. So this development team will be decided how they're going to design or the implement issues local to a single component is resolved. And the next one is software assessment team. The software assessment team is nothing but the final delivery of the product or a project. The artifacts is deployment set, SEO database, usual manual, and environment, release specifications, release description, deployment documents. So whereas the software assessment rule is release testing, change management, deployment, and environment support. So release testing is nothing but here. So they're going to update each and everything. So different types of the releases will be there. And change management, if any issues or the criticality will be occurred, so based upon the suggestions, so the changes will be incorporated by the change management. And deployment is maintenance. So environment support. So the responsibility is project infrastructure, independent testing, requirements verifications, metric analysis, configuration control, change management, and user deployment. So in the inception, the planning should be there. They're going to design the prototype, and the elaborations that they're going to check that architecture release testing and change management during the design part only. They will be checking that is there any changes for the particular architecture or the infrastructure, and they're going to release the user manual. And constructions, they're going to check that what are the upgrades. Okay, so for example, they're going to check the release the alpha, beta, so like that different types of the upgrades like that. Okay, release testing, change management, user manual baseline, and requirement verification. The last one is transition. In the transition, they need to check that the maintenance and what are the different types of the release will be there, and they need to incorporate the different types of the changes and deployment to the users. And finally, requirements verifications must be done here. So they're having the two reasons. One is first they need to ensure that independent quality perspective. So they need to check that they need to gain more quality. Okay, and the main drawback is they need to check that the software development team has been ownership in quality to some extent. And second one is here independent test team is to be exploit the concurrency of the activities and schedules. So schedules can be regulated. So they need to verify about how much they're going to develop the software and the different types of the testing in parallel with the development activities. Change management, testing planning, and test scenario development can be performed in parallel. So this can be done with the parallelly. They can changes will be happening during the design and development. So they are going to consider the different types of the use case or different types of the testing to incorporate of these changes. One is release specifications and another one is the release description. Release specification is nothing but the plan and evaluation. Okay, release description means they need to have the documentations of the release. Okay, what are the results of the releases? Different types of the release. We have the documentations. Okay, and each release may encompasses several components. So they need to check that what are the different types of the components they are going to implement it and how this will be evaluated. So here, this is the major milestone and the release description must be there during the test results, and final iterations will be there. They need to accept the testing and they need to include the different types of the test plans, procedures and reports. Okay, and also how the different abstract versions of the in detail of the documentations for the completeness and the testability for the later releases. And also they need to use the use case testing test components should be incorporated in the development of component test. Okay, so they should be have the self-documented scenarios to verify that software programs in their own right, and they can check that the software has to be up to date for the automated regression testing. Okay, the components must be evaluated, so they should have the evaluation criteria for each and every documented in the release description. So based upon that, how much there the release is incorporated, the changes will be done from the previous to the current release descriptions. So and also they need to check the different types of the test softwares and developers, and we have the formal testing for the many components. So they should be have the evaluation criteria and types of the threat oriented scenarios and corresponding the release descriptions here. Okay, and also the components are not created. So how the components cannot be created means based upon the formal testing. Okay, they need to verify that the different types of the requirements, and they need to check that what is the best tested. Okay, and also they need to give that judgment. So how much the test will be performed and what is the assessment rating will be there, means they need to check that the quality of the baseline release. So with respect to, they need to have the main expectations of the customers. So this assessment team will be taking the more responsibility for achieving the more quality, because they need to satisfy the customer expectations. The customer's expectations is not up to right, they need to try to improve the quality of the product. Okay, so these are the main references I have followed. Okay, thank you.
Like, share and subscribe. Hit the bell icon for more updates.